In our last video, we have seen what is charge and what are the properties of charge. That video was a little bit long, that's why I have to stop at electrostatic force. Now we will continue from the electrostatic force and try to complete all the topics which remain untouched. So let us begin with the topic we have discussed. Frictional electricity with some simulations or definitions. Now we have also studied properties of charges. Okay, now we will try to understand the Coulomb's law both in scalar or in vector form. Okay, this in fact we would cover all the topics in this video. So let's get started. So Coulomb's law can be defined as it is the electrostatic interaction between 2 point charges. Please read this point carefully. Point charges. We have studied a concept of point object in 11th class, and here we are discussing or studying point charge. Okay, so this is important. So electrostatic force of attraction between 2 point charges is directly proportional to product of the charges. Okay, product of the charges, in fact product of the magnitude of the charges, and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them and act along the line of joining between two charge. Okay, so consider we have two charges q1 and second one is q2, and the separation between them is small r. Then according to Coulomb's law, the force of attraction or repulsion between them will be directly proportional to q1 and the product of q1 and q2. Here you can see F is directly proportional to the product of q1 and q2. One point you have to remember there, that you don't have to put sign there because we are talking about the magnitude only. Okay, so we are talking about only the magnitude of these two charges, so don't bother about their signs. Okay, now Coulomb also said the force of attraction between them is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Okay, so it means if we increase the distance, the force will decrease. If we try to increase the separation between the charges, the force will decrease rapidly or by the square of the distance. Okay, now if we combine both the things, we will get F proportional to the product of magnitudes q1 and q2 and inversely proportional to r square. If we remove this proportionality sign, we will get a proportionality constant. Okay, we have already seen that whenever the proportionality signs eradicate or eliminate, then a proportionality sign come into play. So here k is that proportionality constant. This k is called electrostatic force constant. Now in vacuum, the value of k can be given as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, where epsilon naught is again a constant and it is called the permittivity of free space. What is permittivity, that we will study ahead. Okay, so epsilon naught is called the permittivity of free space. what is free space means? Free space means air or vacuum. If we say the charge is placed in free space, then we are talking about vacuum. Okay, where epsilon naught is called the permittivity of free space. So whenever we talk about free space, uh, we talk about vacuum or air, because both have the approximately same permittivity. Okay, so permittivity epsilon naught is called the permittivity of free space. Now, if the charge is placed between or inside any medium, for examples, we have placed the charge in water or in oil, or we have placed that in any other medium, or consider the charge is inside a metal. So in that case, the proportionality constant become 1 by 4 pi epsilon. Here epsilon is, it is the permittivity of medium. Okay, so initially we have epsilon naught, that was the permittivity of medium, but now we have epsilon m, that denote the permittivity, again absolute permittivity, but not of vacuum, of medium. Okay, you can read there, epsilon is the absolute electric permittivity of that dielectric medium. Okay, now one more terms we have to define here. The term is dielectric constant. Okay, or it is also termed as relative permittivity, or it is also termed as specific inductive capacity, or it is also termed as dielectric coefficient. In all these four terms, we are talking about single term, relative permittivity. Relative permittivity is denoted by epsilon r or k. Okay, so epsilon r is the relative permittivity, which is the ratio of the permittivity of the medium to the permittivity of free space. I hope you are understand the ratio of electric permittivity of medium to the permittivity of free space is called relative permittivity, or dielectric constant, or specific inductive capacity, or dielectric coefficient, or it is also denoted as letter K. Okay, so what is the use of these terms? Okay, now in vacuum, the Coulomb force expression can be written as 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 and q2 by r square. Okay, and in any other medium, the expression become 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught into epsilon r, where epsilon r is the relative permittivity or dielectric coefficient. Okay, is that clear? And why we are writing like this? Because if we know the dielectric constant of any medium, then we can find the permittivity of any medium. For example, we want to find out the permittivity of any medium, we just have to multiply the relative dielectric constant of the medium with the permittivity of free space. Is that clear? So we have just removed epsilon m by epsilon r into epsilon naught. So the expression will look like this: 1 by 4 pi epsilon epsilon naught, epsilon r, q1 and q1, q2 and r square. I hope this is clear to you. Now we have already discussed that the permittivity of free space is constant. So we have to know the value of permittivity of free space. So you have to remember this, that the permittivity of free space is 8.854 into 10 to the power minus 12 coulomb square Newton inverse meter minus 2. So you have to remember the value of permittivity of free space in magnitude or in unit. Okay, you have to remember both the things. Okay, because it is severally asked in examination or in other competitive examination. If we plug in the value for epsilon naught, if we plug this epsilon naught value under this, then we will get a value of 8.9875 10 to the power 9, which can be approximated as, we can approximate that value as 9 into 10 to the power 9. Okay, so we will remember this value as 9 into 10 to the power 9. So in vacuum, the force of attraction and repulsion between two charges can be written as 9 into 10 to the power 9 into 10 to the power 9 q1 magnitude of first charge and q2 magnitude of second charge divided by the square of separation between them. So this expression can be used directly whenever we are confirmed that the charge is kept into vacuum and we are talking about the force in SI system. I hope this is very clear to you. Now let us discuss Coulomb's law in vector form. As we have studied that Coulomb's law deals with the electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion between the charges. Now we would discuss Coulomb's law in vector form. Because we have studied Coulomb's law, studied the expression only to find the magnitude of force between two charges, but we would not be able to say that in which direction that force will act. So in order to give the complete representation of force both in magnitude and direction, we have to consider Coulomb's law in vector form also. So for that we are considering, we have two charges q1 and q2. Okay, and the separation between them is r. Okay, so these charges are placed in vacuum. We are considering that these two charges are placed in vacuum, and both the charges of same polarity, of positive polarity. Okay, now in order to give the direction, we have to define the unit position vector. So r12 cap is a unit position vector from charge q1 to q2. In a similar manner, we can also define a position vector r21 r21 cap, which will direct from charge q2 to q1. Okay, so now we can see, since the magnitude of both the charges is same, so the force between them will be repulsive. So the force on q1 by q2 can be given as f12 vector, and its direction is outward, radically outward. Okay, and the direction of force on q2 exerted by q1 can be written as F21 vector, which is also radically outward. Okay, now consider we have again two charges q1 and q2. This time the charge is also of same polarity but of negative polarity. Okay, we have again uh, define a unit position vector r12 from charge q1 to q2. Again, since the both charges are of same polarity, the force will be repulsive. So the force exerted on q1 by q2 can be written as 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 r square r21 r21. Okay, this is r12. We are considering this direction and as positive, so we have to consider this direction as negative. So r21 will be of negative. The force on q1 is said to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 r square r21 with negative sign, since we are considering this direction as positive. Okay, and the opposite direction as negative. Okay, by Coulomb's law we can also express force on charge q2 by q1. F21 is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 r square r12. Since we are considering this direction as positive, so we will place a positive sign in this expression. I hope this is very clear to you. Okay, now this time we are considering both the charges of opposite polarity. Okay, this is also expressed by an inequality here, because if you multiply if you multiply two charges of different sign, then it will always less than 0, and if you multiply the charges with same signs, then the product of them will be greater than 0. Either they are both are negative or both are positive. Okay, so now the force of attraction or repulsion between these two charges can be given as 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square r12. Again, but this time the force between these two charges will be attractive. So F12 will be toward the center of line joining them. Okay, since we have already considered this direction as positive, so now this time we have to place a positive sign in front of the F12, and F21 will be 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 q upon r square r21, and we have to put a negative sign because now F21 is directing in this direction, and this direction we have taken as negative. Is that clear to you? So these expressions are for Coulomb's law but in vector form. Negative, this is positive for the above examples. Okay, and this time this is positive and this is negative. So what we can see with these expressions, that if we consider the magnitude part, always remember that negative sign in vector indicate opposite direction. Okay, here negative is not the part of magnitude. So F12 and F21 both have the same magnitude but opposite direction. So we can say that F12 is equal to minus F21 in all the cases. So whenever you talk about the electrostatic force between two charges, this equation will always hold, that F12 will always be equal to F21 in magnitude and opposite in direction. Define the 1 coulomb charge, or which charge is said to be 1 coulomb. So we have just defined 1 coulomb charge. So according to definition, consider we have two charges. We have charge q1 and q2. This charge is q1 and this charge is q2. Both are of same polarity. So let's define their polarity as positive charge, and these charges are placed in air or vacuum by a distance of 1 meter. Okay, so according to definition, we say that 1 coulomb charge is that charge which, when placed at rest, because electrostatic also always deal in rest, at a distance of 1 meter from an equal and similar stationary charge, repel it and repelled by it with a force of 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. So let me simplify this for you. So what we are saying, that we can write the expression of force between, since the forces, both the charges are positive, the force will be repulsive. So what we are saying, that these two charges have same magnitude. So q, let's assume that both have the same magnitude q. Okay, and the distance between them is 1, so 1 square will be 1. Okay, and these are kept in air, these charge kept in air, so the constant value can be written as 9 into 10 to the power 9. So what we say, if this force is also having a value of 9 into 10 to the power 9 into 10 to the power 9, then these constant term will be cancelled out. Okay, let's see this by this example. This will become q square, this will become 1. So what we will see, that this value will be cancelled by this value. So what we will get, q square will be equal to 1, and when we remove the square sign, we will get q will be equal to positive or negative 1. So this charge is said to be 1 coulomb. Okay, so what is the definition? If two charges of same magnitude are kept at a distance of 1 meter in air or vacuum, repel each other by a force of 9 into 10 to the power 9, then each charge out of them is said to be of 1 coulomb. This is the definition written here. So this is the definition of unit charge, asked several times in your examination. In fact, whenever examiner asks Coulomb's law, that also ask about the unit of charge. Or now let us discuss the unit of charge in CGS system. In CGS system, we use two type of unit. One is electrostatic unit, and second one is electromagnetic unit. The difference is clear. Electrostatic means when the charge is at rest, and electromagnetic means when the charge in motion, and we will study later that when the charge is in motion, it creates a magnetic field. Okay, so in CGS electromagnetic system, the unit of charge is stat coulomb or ESU of charge. In CGS electrostatic system, K is equal to 1 by K, where K is called the dielectric constant. Okay, you will understand this in a while. For vacuum, the value of K, the value of this K is 1. So the electrostatic force constant, that is small k, 1. Since k is equal to 1 by k, so 1 by 1 is 1. So that's why in CGS system of charge, the electrostatic force constant value is k. So we can write the expression for force as F equal to Q1 into Q2 by R square and multiplied by 1 because the electrostatic force constant in the system is 1. The force can be written as Q1 and Q2 R square, and R where Q1 and Q2 have the same magnitude. R is equal to 1 centimeter and F equal to 1 dyne. We know the unit of force in a CG system is dyne. Okay, so in that condition the charge is said to be 1 stat coulomb. So the definition is crystal clear that if two charges of same magnitude are kept at a distance of 1 centimeter in vacuum, repel each other by a force of 1 dyne, that in that case every charge is said to be of 1 stat coulomb. Or in CGS electromagnetic system, the unit of charge is eV coulomb, or it is called EMU of charge, that is electromagnetic unit of charge. Okay, so you have to remember this conversion because it may ask in your examination, not hard to remember, that 1 EMU of charge, that is 1 electromagnetic unit of charge, is equal to C ESU unit of charge, where c is the speed of light. Okay, we know the speed of light c is equal to, what is the speed of light? That is 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 meter per second. And when you convert this meter into centimeter, so you will get 3 into 10 to the power 10. Okay, so 1 UMU of charge is CESU of charge. I hope this is very clear to you. Charge is equal to 10 coulomb. This is the conversion from CGS unit to SI unit. Okay, 1 F coulomb is the unit in CGS system and this is an SI system. So you have to remember all the conversion written here. Now after that we discuss different types of charge distribution. Now let us consider continuous charge distribution. So as you have studied that Coulomb's law is only valid for point charge. And what is point charges? So point charge means if two bodies of very large size, okay, for example this body has a large size and this body is also of large size, and the separation between them is approximately infinity. We are considering that these two bodies are kept at nearly infinity. The size of these bodies are also infinity, and these bodies are kept at a distance of infinity. So in that condition, the two bodies can be considered as point charge. The charge on these two large bodies can be considered as point charge. Why we consider that? Because the size of the charge or the size of the body is much smaller than the separation between the two bodies. So in that condition these two charges or these two bodies can be considered as point charge. I hope this is clear to you. This body can be considered as point object and the charge on the bodies can be considered as point charge. But in practical life, we cannot consider every body as a point charge, having a point charge. For example, let us assume that we have one body and we have another bodies, and these two bodies are kept at a very small distance, for example 1 centimeter. Since the body are kept at a very small distance, so these bodies cannot be termed as point charge, or the charge on the body is cannot be considered as point charge. So we have to study the what type of charge distribution is over the surface of this body. We will discuss different type of charge distribution or continuous charge distribution. What is continuous charge distribution? Continuous charge distribution, we say that the body consists charge uniformly at every part. Okay, we are not saying that the body have charge at discrete points. So any charge which covers a space with dimension much less than its distance away from observation point can be considered as point charge. A system of closely spaced charge is said to be form a continuous charge distribution. We have discussed that a system of closely spaced charge means continuous charge distribution. So first we have linear or line charge density. It is denoted by letter lambda. Okay. So what is line charge density? Consider that we have a linear object, okay, such that its length is infinite and its breadth is 0, and the charge is uniformly distributed over the length. Okay, so we can let us consider that q charge is distributed over this length. Let us consider a small part of this linear conductor of length L. The length of L of the conductor contain q charge. This q charge is the charge over the length L, not on infinite length. So unit length will have charge of q by L, or we can say capital L. Okay, with capital L. So this, the charge per unit length of a linear object is called its linear charge density or line charge density. The charge distributed over the unit length of the conductor is called the line charge density of the conductor. I think this is clear to you. You can also read in definition. Linear charge density is the charge per unit length. Okay, and its SI unit will be, since the unit of Q or charge is coulomb in SI system and the unit of length in SI system is meter, so the line charge density unit will be coulomb per meter. Is that clear? And you have to remember that this is density and it is a scalar quantity. Line or linear charge density. What is the use of line charge density or linear charge density? We will see that in electric field, but now you have to understand these terminologies. We have already seen that. Okay. One more thing. Let us consider a very small fraction of this. Uh, let's try to represent this as in integral form. Okay. So let us consider a very small fraction of the length, that is dl. Okay, since it is the fraction of length, so the amount of charge will be very small, that is dq. And since we have already said that the charge is distributed uniformly, so dq by dl will give you the same ratio as given by q by l, because the line charge density is same, either for a small segment or for a large portion. Okay, so the amount of charge can be calculated as lambda times dl, and integrated it over the length of the conductor. This is the expression you have to remember, because we will use this expression very much. Now move to surface charge density. Okay, so surface charge density is also similar to line charge density, but in this case the charge is distributed over the surface of the conductor. Okay, so let us consider we have a surface of a conductor. Let us consider we have a lamina or a plane sheet. This positive charge is distributed uniformly on the surface of conductor. A small area segment, that is ds. Since the area segment is very small, so it will contain a charge of dq, which also be very small. We can define surface charge density as the charge per unit area on the surface of a conductor is called surface charge density, and it is denoted by letter sigma, this letter sigma. Okay, and if we consider this that this contains charge q and the area of this sheet is s. So since we have considered that the charge is distributed uniformly, so the ratio of q by s will give you same result as given by dq by ds. Now let us represent this in integral form. So total charge on the surface of that sheet or that surface can be given as integration of sigma with respect to ds over the total surface area. Okay, it can also be written like this, that the total charge is equal to the double integration. This is called double integration or surface integration of sigma with respect to ds or surface area. This is the expression you have to remember, and you can also write it like this. So let's talk about its unit. Since dq unit is coulomb in SI system and area unit is meter square, so undoubtedly its unit will be coulomb per meter square. Again, it's a scalar quantity, and the use of this. Now the last type of charge density is volume charge density. Okay, so I think this definition is also clear to you. Okay, or uh, we can tell about volume charge density before actual going to its definition, that it must be the charge per unit volume of a conductor. Let's see we are correct or not. Yes, we are correct. Okay, so let us consider we have a cube. There we have a cube, and we are considering a small volume of that cube, that is dV. It is not visible to you, but that is dV. It is dV. So dV have a charge of dq, dV have a charge of dq. So the volume charge density, that is rho, will be the charge per unit volume. Or if this cube have q charge and its volume is v, so this is also equal to q upon v, because we are considering that the charge is distributed uniformly. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Okay, so now let's talk about its unit also. You can see we are we can also represent we can also calculate the total charge on the body as volume integration of p dt. It is not dt, it is dv. It is you can say that it's v, but this should be v, and this is the volume integration, or it can also be written as integration of rho with respect to dV. These are the three charge density with which our first video lecture completed. Okay, in next video lecture we will study the electric field, and we will try to find the electric field intensities of different types of charge distribution.